What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 7 Team Builder for aABL Season 5 in the Magma League, taking on Joepick and the Texas Aggies. Joepick is another undefeated member of the squad. Shuckle King actually lost Week 5, so there's no one undefeated in our conference anymore. There are 3 4-1 teams. Shuckle King, Aaron, who guys may remember from NCL, and myself, all at 4-1. But outside of playoffs is at 3-2 right now, so it's a very intense fight to clinch playoffs at the moment, and sort of work on that. But over in the other conference there, Joepick and Zombie are both 5-0. This is week 6. This is our second out of conference matchup. Excuse me. We'll have another one in week 9 where we take on the Universal Umbreon, coached by someone I can't remember off the top of my head. Retro, I think. Might be Retro. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We'll get to that in week 9. Anyways, Joepick's team consists of the Mew, Alola Ninetales, Nidoqueen, Silvally, Blastoise, Blaziken, Steelix, Mega Absol, Z Thundurus Therian, Shaman, Z Haxorus, and Z Volbeat. Priority options in the Mew with Vacuum Wave, Alola Ninetales with Ice Shard, Nidoqueen with Sucker Punch, Blaziken with Vacuum Wave, Blastoise with Aqua Jet, Mega Absol with Sucker Punch, and Volbeat with Prankster Shenanigans. Hazard setting options in the Mew with Rocks, the Nidoqueen with Rocks and Toxic Spikes, and the Steelix with Rocks. Removal options in the Mew with Defog, Silvally with Defog, Blastoise with Rapid Spin, Blaziken with Defog, Thundurus Therian with Defog, and Volbeat with Defog, and only one 4x weakness on the team, and the Alola Ninetales to Steel. This team isn't very weak to Steel overall. There's a Steelix on this team, a Blastoise, a Blaziken, a Thunder T. Oh, excuse me. All of those resist Steel, so Steel coverage isn't amazing anyways, and so I'm not really going to be exploiting that. I had intended on exploiting it, but I opted out of going that route. In terms of what I expect to see and what I don't expect to see, the only thing I'm really not going to see is the Volbeat. And that's about it. I'm definitely expecting the Mew to show up for sure. I think Mew is coming 100% of the time. I think that the Shaman is probably most likely also coming. Thundy T also coming to break through my waters. I think that would make a lot of sense. He seems to like Mega Absol, even though it's really bad. Excuse me, so that could be 4. And then from there, the Blastoise is probably a good idea as a check to my Charizard X. And that's about 5. So I'm not sure where he would go from there. That's kind of the downside of prepping for 12 Mons, and part of the reason why I don't like prepping with 12 Mons. So first up on my end is Mega Charizard X. I'm actually bringing a very offensive Mega Charizard X. I know in the past I've wanted to bring more bulky variants, but this is a very offensive version. I'm running Flame Charge, SD, Dragon Claw, and Roost. Max attack Adamant. This is going to get up to a really high stat once I Mega Evolve. It goes up to base 130 once I click the Mega button. I have to Mega Evolve early. I'm running Flame Charge SD rather than a Dragon Dance variant because I need the +2 to be able to break through something like Blastoise. And so I can always opt into Flame Charging against something else later. But the idea is that I can get a +2 off earlier, and then be able to smack something like a Blastoise with the +2 Dragon Claw a little bit easier, especially if it wants to roar me out. It's going to have to take a lot more damage than it would if I were a +1 variant. I am running Hazard Support somewhere. I believe I'm running Rocks on my Diancie, so I'll be able to break a Sturdy from the Steelix or something like that. And it won't help on his end if he brings Alola Ninetales and Steelix that he might be breaking his own Sturdy there. I opted into being Adamant over Jolly because I wanted the damage output, and I don't really need to be max speed. Like I could be to speed tie a potential Scarf Mew or Scarf Shaman, but I didn't really feel like it was all that necessary to have to run Jolly to speed tie the other base 100s. I also didn't feel like it was all that necessary for me to speed creep something like a Silvally. I am still outspeeding the Volbeat, not that it's really going to matter, and a Scarf Haxorus would still outspeed me, but I don't know about bringing a Scarf Haxorus in this matchup. It just doesn't seem to make a ton of sense to me why you'd want to opt into a Scarf Haxorus rather than a Dragon Dance C variant. That seems like the most optimal build on his end. Oh my goodness, pardon me. A Mold Breaker Haxorus would be a nice way to break through Fur Coat Persian as well. So that's what's on with the Zard X there. Flame Charge from Adamant Max Attack Charizard is going to obliterate the Ninetales. It's not going to one-shot it, but it will obliterate it, and it'll at least let me get up to +2 if he wants to switch in for some reason. I don't know why you'd ever want to switch in Ninetales on Charizard, but there you go. And then, yeah, this is just so that I don't take recoil damage, essentially. I've got the Roost there so that I can start living hits from things a little bit later on. DNC, I'm running a really whack DNC set. I'm running Light Screen, Light Clay, and physically defensive. So, idea behind this is that I can chew an Iron Tail from Mega Absol. Max Attack Mega Absol, I can live an Iron Tail. I cannot live like a Heavy Slam from Max Attack Steelix, though. It's very, very threatening. This is a decent check to the Blaziken, though, if it gets out of hand. Idea is that it can also somewhat check the Haxorus if I need to as well. I've got rocks on here. I've got Heal Bell just in case he wants to like spam Toxics and whatnot. Things of that nature. Thunder Waves with the Volbeat would be really annoying. But I'm mainly thinking for the Charizard that Toxic would be really annoying to wear it down, as well as wearing down my DNC. But the Light Screen puts me in a really good spot against something like Thundy T or like a Shaman for my Zard to start setting up. I didn't really have the room to make it reflect as well, so the physical attackers are still going to be threatening to my Charizard X. I just sort of see a lot more special attackers on the field, or on his team, than I do physical attackers. Mono Moonblast is fine. The Moonblast resists on those team are Steelix anyways. And like Nidoqueen, and I don't really stay in on them. Pardon, I don't really stay in on them all that much, or I like set up a light screen against Nidoqueen as he gets up rocks or something, I'm not sure. Abomasnow's next. I'm running a physical Life Orb Abomasnow with Ice Shard, Earthquake, Ice Punch, and Wood Hammer. This set just destroys everything, honestly. He actually really cannot deal with this set very well. It checks a lot of stuff on this team offensively, and that's what's kind of the beauty about Abomasnow, I guess. It doesn't really have the power output, so I need to run Life Orb. I really hate Life Orb as an item, but I need to run Life Orb to gain the power output that I need to OHKO some stuff. I've got Ice Shard there to pick off mons like Thundy T, like Haxorus if they get out of control, like Absol potentially. I don't see a reason why Absol would ever want to click Sucker Punch against me, and it would instead just drop to an Ice Shard or something like that. The Nidoqueen if it's a really fast Nidoqueen, Mew if it gets out of hand, the Shaman if it gets out of hand, things of those nature. Some Silvally type that would be weak to Ice as well, I guess. Earthquake is there mainly for a Blaziken. That's about it, honestly. Earthquake is like really only good for that, but it's also a decent way to break through Steelix if I have to in a last-ditch scenario. So again, mainly for the Blaziken, but also semi for the Steelix. Ice Punch, this mon does not get Icicle Crash, and I didn't want to run Blizzard. I wanted to be fully physical. So the options that I was limited to are like Avalanche, Ice Beam, which is special Blizzard and whatnot. So Ice Punch was kind of my best option here in terms of physical ice coverage against his team. So we're running Ice Punch for some physical coverage. It's a great way to break through Nidoqueen, great way to break through a slow Thundy, slow Haxorus, and whatnot. I'm not sure exactly if I'd be outspeeding those or not. I'm specifically running enough speed on this to outspeed no speed Blastoise. Or like 20 speed Blastoise or something is what I'm running it for, and I was still able to run Adamant, which is kind of important for Ice Shard revenging a lot of stuff later. And then Wood Hammer is a nice way to break through Blastoise. Blastoise is like the only thing stopping Mega Charizard X from just absolutely obliterating everything. It's kind of the only thing that doesn't just drop to like a +2 Dragon Claw. So that's the reason that I'm trying to eliminate the Blastoise with this Wood Hammer, essentially. And obviously, if I am put in a position where I have to, I'd like to keep Abomasnow in the back to be able to revenge kill quite a few things. Persian's next. Foul Play, Taunt, Knockoff, and U-Turn. I've got U-Turn on there in case the Mega Absol decides it wants to come in on like a potential Parting Shot or whatever. I'm opting out of Parting Shot so that I don't get Magic Bounced back out of there, because then Persian becomes quite the handicap, unfortunately. Foul Play to deal with the Haxorus, Taunt for various mons, but mainly there for the Aurora Veil, as well as any hazards that Nidoqueen would want to set up. Potentially also there for a Nasty Plot variant of like Thundy T or an ST variant of Blaziken, but realistically I'd rather click Foul Play against something like that. And then knock off, just get rid of items. Helps me deal with the Mew a little bit if I can like taunt it and knock it off. It's just quite an annoying Pokemon for the Mew to deal with. Jolly max speed. Speed ties with the Mega Absol, and then I'm running just max HP. Keldeo is next. I'm running a Scarf Keldeo, Hydro Pump, Secret Sword, or Icy Wind Surf, just a 4-attack set. I didn't really need a hidden power this game. Icy Wind is nice for some speed control later on. If I need the damage output, then HP Ice is whatever. It's 5 base power more, so it's not going to really change that many rolls. But the Icy Wind speed control could be very helpful against mons that are weak to ice. This team is decently weak to ice, so somewhat spammable. Secret Sword, I don't know how much it's going to really do to the Blastoise because I anticipate it to be physically defensive anyways, but it could be like physically defensive AV and try and cover my Keldeo and my Zardax at the same time. Otherwise, Secret Sword's a decent click against the Shaman. Besides the Shaman and the Blastoise, the water resists are Haxorus, which isn't really a water resist all that much. So Hydro Pump spam is going to be fairly effective. Not all that much, but fairly effective. And Surf spam will also be able to do the same sort of thing. I resist Absol's Dark Stabs, and I'll outspeed it. So shouldn't always be the best way about things, but yeah, that's all it is for that. Last but not least, I've got Diggersby. I'm running an Assault Vest Diggersby with Quick Attack, Return, Earthquake, and U-Turn. So, in theory, this can somewhat handle the Thunderous Therian, which I think is quite a problem. Can also somewhat handle the Mew and the Nidoqueen. It doesn't really handle the Shaman or the Ninetales in any capacity, unfortunately. But I would be able to handle like a special Mega Absol as well. So, kind of does those things. I wanted my Scarf to be Keldeo. Scarf Diggersby was also good, but Scarf Keldeo outsped more. I'm actually outspeeding Thundy with this speed investment, and then Diggersby, I've got, yeah, U-turn there for momentum, just gets momentum off against a lot of stuff. Still a decent breaker against mons like Steelix and Nidoqueen and whatnot. I'm outspeeding something in particular with this. I'm outspeeding Minspeed Silvally, so I'm speed creeping much more than my Abomasnow is, but that's because I naturally outspeed mons like Nidoqueen, and I don't really predict the Blastoise to be running very much speed at all anyways. Return should be able to break through a lot of this team. Normal resists are specifically the Steelix unless the Silvally Ghost shows up, which wouldn't actually be a bad option against me. Silvally Ghost might be half decent against my build. I'm just running max HP or whatever, or close enough to whatever HP I could slot in there with the speed creeping, and then I wanted an odd value, so I have a little bit of Spadef to back up the Assault Vest as well. So in terms of what I'm not bringing, Zapdos, I put on the chopping block a little bit this week. It didn't really fulfill what I needed it to. It could have been alright as like a defog, pressure staller, defogger. It doesn't stop Alolan Ninetales from doing anything, which is quite a problem. Ferrothorn, I don't like in this matchup very much. There's a lot of stuff that gets random fire coverage, and Abomasnow is already going to be a problem enough. Abomasnow is just so much better than Ferrothorn in this matchup, so I didn't want to have both of my 4 times weak to fire mons show up again. It's just waiting to lose to HP fire. Slowking, decent, but Alolan Ninetales is a common Freeze-Dry user, so also again sort of also loses to the Thundy, although it stops the Nidoqueen probably in its tracks. Nidoking is a mon that I've used really well up to this point in the season. I didn't like it offensively here all that much. It sort of has a weird... It fits in a weird place in the speed tiers. Is threatened by the things slower than it, but not threatened... Like, pseudo-threatened by the things faster than it, except for Ninetales and Mew. And then, like, mostly threatened by the things slower than it, but I can't OHKO the things slower than it, so it gets off, like, one hit and then dies. It was just really strange, and I just opted out of it. Xatu, brand new to the team. Xatu is not making its debut today. It's a decent bring against the Nidoqueen, which is definitely going to have Thunderbolt, by the way, but loses to Mega Absol, so I'm not screwing around with that. And then Golisopod was a really good Absol Revenge killer, and a Shaman killer, and a Mew killer, and a Nidoqueen killer, but there were just too many threats, and I had other mons that I wanted to bring. I thought Diancie was way too important to have at least some sort of stopgap for the Haxorus. So that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the team, and I'll catch you guys for the match.